Welcome to the show, guys. We are talking about Jonathan Taylor today, his fantasy football impact and outlook for fantasy football 2022. Should you draft him? Should you not draft him? What do you do with Jonathan Taylor? I know the obvious thing seems like, hey, he had a pinnacle year last year. Should we draft him? And consensus, he's the number one running back off the board, probably going to be the first overall pick. But should you invest in him? And what are some things that you should be looking for? So the full breakdown here, guys, on Jonathan Taylor. Now, I am doing the Impact series, guys. I've linked it here below on YouTube, covering each individual player, breaking them down, letting them know if I would draft them and if you should draft them going into the season, and how to approach with caution or with confidence, okay? Very important episode here. Now, if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys click that subscribe button for advice that'll actually help you guys win. Now, what the mainstream do is they tell you that last year's top finishers, and they say, hey, these are last year's top finishers, draft them again in that same order, and that's how everything is predicated, and that's how people don't stand out of the crowd. It's very simple, guys. It's common sense. If you do what everyone else does, you won't get ahead. So make sure you guys do get the 16-round draft solution, where it completely destroys draft kits, magazines, four-letter network advice, and everything you've ever seen for fantasy football. This is the game changer, guys. 16 rounds. I've linked it here below on YouTube, or just Google 16 rounds draft solution. It should come up. Watch the video. Get into the solution, guys. All right, I'm super excited. Video training, everything you guys need there to help you guys draft that optimal roster. All right, let's dive into Jonathan Taylor here. Now, again, make sure you guys subscribe, and also leave a comment below if you're on YouTube here, and let me know, are you drafting Jonathan Taylor? How confident are you? The big question to me with Jonathan Taylor is he going to finish number one amongst running backs again? And I got to tell you, history has shown us it's very, very unlikely. The last time a running back did it was in 2002, 2003 with Priest Holmes. I keep talking about this guy throughout. If you listen to my channel regularly, I've talked about Priest Holmes and how much of an anomaly it was for him to produce back-to-back amazing running back numbers. I believe he played on the Chiefs in the early 2000s. So now, Jonathan Taylor coming off a pinnacle year. Let's talk about Jonathan Taylor. 332 attempts, 1,811 yards rushing on the ground, okay? 1,811 yards, that's phenomenal. 5.5 yards per carry, 18 touchdowns, 40 receptions on 51 targets, 360 yards receiving, and 2 receiving touchdowns. A total of 20 touchdowns combined, 18 on the ground, 2 receiving. Those are phenomenal numbers, okay? Going into last year, you would think that guys like Marlon Mack would have been a thorn and Naheem Hines would have been a thorn in the side of Jonathan Taylor, but that was not the case. And that's what I love about Jonathan Taylor. And the same thing goes for a guy like Javonte Williams. At the time of this recording, Melvin Gordon is still a free agent. I bet you he probably still signs with the Broncos, which could really hinder and destroy Javonte Williams' value, unless they completely sideline Melvin Gordon, which is what they should do because he's not good. Right, Javonte's got that. I don't know if he's as good as Jonathan Taylor, but he's got that type of upside if you let him get the volume, right? So that's a whole other video. Make sure you guys watch that on Javonte Williams' fantasy impact. Now, there has been some changes in the NFL. Time is recording. Carson Wentz just got shipped off to the Washington team. So now Jonathan Taylor is there. The quarterback is suspect. We don't know who the quarterback is. And there's just been a disaster of quarterbacks throughout the years, including, Andrew Luck, who retired all of a sudden out of nowhere, Phillip Rivers, Jacoby Brissett, and Carson Wentz. And some players, defensive players, other players on the Colts expressing their frustrations with them not having a quarterback. Now, they've got everything else figured out. Wide receiver you can question, but their O-line is good, their defense is good, their running back situation's figured out. They do need a quarterback. Okay, so that's the big question. We're going to have to see what happens after the NFL draft. I don't think their current rostered quarterbacks are enough to keep them afloat. They do need a quarterback, or they might make a trade. They might acquire somebody. There's talk at the time of this recording that Kirk Cousins or someone else ends up on the Colts. Maybe Derek Carr. We don't know. I'm not really a fan of Derek Carr, but I mean, desperate times call for desperate measures, right? You definitely need a quarterback, at least as someone who's solid and consistent, or someone that can put up, get the ball down the field. So when I look at Jonathan Taylor, this may help or actually negate his progress here. So a good quarterback that airs the ball out, more passing attempts, maybe things open up for Jonathan Taylor. Either way, no matter what quarterback's under the center, let's take that away. Jonathan Taylor has proven he's the workhorse running back. He's proven he can carry the load, and he can produce on a high level. So no matter what, barring any type of injury, I believe that Jonathan Taylor continues to produce on a high level. Will Jonathan Taylor finish on top? Will Jonathan Taylor be the number one running back yet again. That is up for question, and I highly doubt that. Who can emerge ahead of him? I think maybe Derrick Henry. I think Najee Harris has that type of potential, right? There's some rookies coming in to the NFL, depending on where they land. They could finish near the top. Jonathan Taylor is a guy, when you look at him, you know, that's the safest bet next to maybe Derrick Henry due for a bounce back, Najee Harris. Those three are your safest bets in the top three picks. If I was going first overall, I'm probably leaning Henry just because of a bounce back here and because of the fact that Derrick Henry, even in 8 games, that's a whole other, we'll do that in another video here. Even in 8 games, when you look at it from an attempt standpoint, still finishes in the top 10. Finished with 219 attempts in 8 games. So that's the type of volume you're dealing with Derrick Henry. And I love volume getters. Now you're saying, well, Joe, volume equals potential injury because you're out on the field more. But yeah, that's what we want. We want injury. We don't want injury. We want volume. So Jonathan Taylor, when you break him down, again, the only knock to him is history. And history shows us it's very unlikely that he will produce these numbers. Now, if you compare him to last year, he went from 1,169 yards to 1,811 yards. He went from 11 touchdowns on the ground to 18 touchdowns. He went from 232 attempts to 332 attempts. And that's the difference, guys. This is what I mean. Once you put a running back in a committee and you take away that volume, you are totally hindering the massive upside and potential and the legacy that running back may have. And that's why I hate committees, not only just from a fantasy perspective, but from a I destroyed this running back's career perspective, right? And teams like to, have that running back by committee because that way they're keeping the legs fresh of the running backs. And then you're basically sitting there and you're like, okay, I could preserve my running back. My running back's going to be healthy all year and I can run a committee. But what you're doing by that is you're not starting your best running back all the time. So it's an advantage and disadvantage to teams, right? If I'm a coach, I'm running my best running back all the time. It's part of the game because I want to win every count, every down, every game. Everything counts. So, again, I look at Jonathan Taylor. I see a ton of talent. I see a ton of youth. The guy is, 23 years old, going into his 3rd season. So he's still young. I still think this year is going to be amazing if he's healthy. The volume will be there. The talent is there. Do you draft, again, Derrick Henry and Najee ahead of him? That's something that's you got to make a decision on. I'm still figuring it out here in the offseason, but I'm leaning a little bit towards the what goes up must come down theory. I do think that maybe Derrick Henry might outperform Jonathan Taylor this year, but again, that is my opinion. And again, I've seen trends. I've seen, what goes up must come down. I've seen this type of stuff. But one thing is for sure, barring any type of injury, a healthy Jonathan Taylor will get the volume. A healthy Jonathan Taylor will produce. The only things in suspect are, again, the history and, of course, maybe a new quarterback coming in and just not gelling with Taylor. Maybe there's some sort of connection issue. Maybe he's not getting the ball, maybe he's not getting his, 51 targets, which isn't a lot, but it's still, in the receiving game. Maybe he doesn't get the 51 targets. Maybe he gets 20 targets. Maybe the quarterback doesn't hand the ball off to him as much. Maybe he's throwing more. That is yet to be seen. But talent, ability, volume, everything is pointing to Jonathan Taylor having an amazing year with a slight decline if everything goes his way. So Jonathan Taylor, do I draft him? Absolutely. But in the back of my mind, I think of Priest Holmes in 2000 to 2003 as being the last person to ever come back-to-back and have pinnacle seasons where he finished on top. I would almost bet, I'd bet a lot that he's not going to finish first overall. And for that reason, knowing that, I would probably go Henry or Najee ahead of him, knowing that they still have more of a ceiling ahead of Jonathan Taylor for this particular year. All right, so that's my opinion. There could be better options. Could be a possible decline for sure. 90% chance I think that there's going to be a decline. But again, it's up to you guys to make that decision. But again, I love Jonathan Taylor. I love the Colts. I'm a Colts fan, okay? Period. Now, if you are new to the channel, guys, make sure you guys are subscribed. Check out the Impact Series. Again, I'm walking through every single player, breaking it down like this, giving you an honest opinion, not just a consensus ranking opinion. So if you are new, make sure you guys do subscribe. Follow on Insta at Fantasy Football Counselor, the #1 social media page on the gram at Fantasy Football Counselor. Make sure you follow there for fantasy football. And guys, I appreciate you guys being here. Smash the thumbs up. Hope you guys enjoyed the video and draft Jonathan Taylor, but expect a decline. We'll talk soon.